Pakistan Zindabad. Let me begin by saying, of course, all of us share the joy of being members of a free country, of what we hope would be a great club in the Committee of Nations. We have taken great pride in that, and we shall continue to take great pride in that. We thank the Planning Commission also for making Pakistan happen. Planning Commission has a great role in making Pakistan happen, and I'll talk about that as we go along. But to begin with, it is a joy, as I said, to have a nation, and it is a joy also to be free, and that's what we've been trying to celebrate and what we are celebrating today. Pakistan got a truncated state. What do I mean by that? That our supply lines were cut off as we were partitioned from the rest of India, and we had severe infrastructural shortages because the colonial rule left us dilapidated. So as Pakistan came into existence, there was a huge shortage of infrastructure to begin with, and that's where the Planning Commission comes in, the host of this seminar. Planning Commission took the struggle and created a substantial infrastructure. The development achievements are huge. If you think about it, the road infrastructure that we've developed, we're all very proud of it because you can now whiz around Pakistan much better than you can whiz around the US. In fact, the US highways look much worse than ours. I don't know about the Germans, but the US look much worse than ours. Even the British highways don't look as good. So our development achievements have been substantial. We had a rural population. Now we have giant cities, 15 cities above 1 million, about 500 cities above 100,000. So we've got a very, very urbanized giant population. Our population, unfortunately, has grown at a fast rate, as Duranaya, one of the best demographers, will tell you. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to control that. But nevertheless, we made great strides in controlling poverty. 70% were poor when we started off. Literacy rates were very low. Now our poverty rates are measured at somewhere around 8%. Now we can quibble about how to measure it and get better rates, but nevertheless our poverty rate has declined dramatically. If you think about it, we have built energy. When I was growing up and a long time ago, majority of the people in our neighborhood had no electricity. Today it's hard to find houses without electricity. Maybe there are about 10-15% in the far out areas that don't have electricity. Schools, we have schools everywhere now. We have 236 universities. So all this has been done. Thank you, Planning Commission. Our middle class also has grown. Durai and I again did some work on this. We've got 60% of our people in the middle class. The consumer economy has grown, which is why you see McDonald's and all these consumer goods companies rushing to Pakistan, and that's very important. Majority of our population from no electricity now has TVs. Most of them have cell phones, 80 to 90% have mobile phones. So we've achieved a lot, and let's not forget that. Let's congratulate ourselves. But as in human history, there is no harvest celebration, no festival without worrying about the future and worrying about whether the rain will come and how do we store our harvest. So at 75, we must also note that there is a lot of work to be done. We've had 23 fund programs. Our debt stock is huge. And we are going through another major balance of payments crisis. So we must keep that in mind. We have a chronic fiscal problem. Our export, as well as our economic growth, as well as our productivity, are stagnating. Our growth goes up to 5% and kind of comes down. So we also have to think about, we've grown well, we've achieved a lot, but the counterfactual disturbs our population. Because in contrast, China, India, Bangladesh are outstripping us now. So we have to begin to look at our own performance and start worrying about where we go. Technical change, globalization has all helped us, but how do we participate in that? We must think about that too. Well, the Planning Commission started making the policy thanks to the Harvard Advisory Group and Mahbub al-Haq's famous book, The Structure for Economic Development. The Haque model came into force, which was basically do projects, borrow money, and hope for growth. And that's what we did. Through that, we built a huge infrastructure. But did we ever outgrow that model? That's a question that we need to ask ourselves. That model made us dependent on external TA and debt, and I think we need to really think about it. How far should we continue with that model? The new model that have come up, thanks to Lucas and Romer, etc., is the endogenous growth model, which talks about internal technical change and reform. Following Bill Easterly, Arthur, and many others, we should also think about how our plans or our models come from the bottom up or top down, and we should think about that too. And that's fast becoming a problem for us too. This morning we had a webinar, which I should mention here, which is very important. Jacob Soul talked about economic history of Europe, and he said something very significant, which I want to bring to the audience here. He talked about the Industrial Revolution in Europe and Colbert in France. Colbert was the Prime Minister of Louis XIV in 1660. I hope I've got the number right. It's 14 or 18. I never can figure it out because there are too many Louis. But nevertheless, he talked about how France was taken by Colbert to catch up with England through three things that he mentioned, which are very important for us to learn, because he put this in the context of development literature. He said that Colbert adopted a very eclectic policy and a very intelligent policy, which put the focus on developing research, not just any research, but strong research in the country, and talked about developing free trade as well as clever protection. And this is something that we also have to think about. So with this background, I would like to say that to our excellent panel, I'd like to put 4 questions, and I hope people would reflect on them. Apart from, of course, they've got many other important questions that they would like to think about. The first is, recount our significant achievements. Tell us all that we've done. I've given you a short sketch. These guys will tell you much more because they're much better versed at it than I am. Tell us about the key turning points on Project Pakistan, key contributions to Project Pakistan. 75 successful years. But now, at the harvest, at our 75th Harvest Festival, they should also think about, at our stage of development, what are the changes in economic policy that we should think about? How should we celebrate our success? But along with celebrating our success, tell us about the approaching headwinds and how we should tackle them. In this context, I would argue, please tell us, should we continue with the Haque model, Mehboob Haque, Harvard Advisory Group model, which is projects and brick and mortar and getting more debt? Or should it be changed? And if it should be changed, to what?